This is the foundation. Stories from people who build things, products, services, businesses, how they started, what they're doing now, and where they're going.
Here we are, hitting the
Here
week
we
off
are.
strong, hanging out,
We hit
chatting away.
right. We've had many conversations over the last couple of months, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk today and get into your podcast as well as Crown and Key, etc. But just a little bit of a setup. You and I have known each other as graphic designers for X number of years, right?
For at least a year.
At least a
Plus.
year, right?
Plus. Yeah.
Let's see, how do I put this? It's wonderful to see, but also quite an amazing difference as to what graphic design is today in 2026 than when we first started practicing graphic
We've known each
design.
other a long time, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of technologies. I appreciate the fact that we're going to actually talk about the technology that everybody is landed on today. Either they want to talk about it or they don't want to talk about it. But I personally am fascinated by what you do. So let's start with that. My question is about Crown and Key, and you say growth partners. Why don't you tell us what Crown and Key Growth Partners is?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, um, what it is like in a nutshell is I partner with a handful of clients at any given time, and I am an advisor as well as implementer of AI strategies. So what my creativity has evolved over the years, but what I love about what I get to do is I get to partner with, founder led business owners that are doing pretty well. Usually it's about, you started with about 1 million on up, but right now I'm kind of focusing on more about 5 million on up, annual revenue a year, where what I do is I look at how can businesses be optimized leveraging AI, and more particularly with AI agents. So agentic AI agents that do a lot of work behind the scenes. Some of it's front facing, but I really love the integration of using AI for my clients to make them more efficient and to make them open up opportunities that they never thought they would have. I mean, that's basically what I do. So when I say a growth partner, I really just partner alongside business owners to figure out where are areas that they could grow their business, and I help them do that. So I'm not a service provider, like, I don't just do ads. Um, Nothing wrong with that. But I really look at everything a business owner is doing and how to make it more efficient. If they need more leads, if they need more, internal stuff that needs to be done that, they're spending hours on end manually doing tasks. That's stuff that AI can do that will free them up so they can focus on the business and business growth. So,
It's a fascinating story as I get to know Crown and Key agents and understanding the hierarchy of what you built today. I'd like to ask the question, these AI agents that have defined specific roles. So why don't you tell us about some of those roles? In fact, you even have names. Alex and I talk occasionally, and I find it
yeah.
fascinating that I can reply to Alex knowing that you'll actually get that reply. So tell us who your agents are.
Yeah, well, my team has expanded, I think probably since we last talked. I think I had like 8 agents at one time. I have my primary chief of staff. His name is Alex. I named him off of the guy that I discovered this methodology from, a guy named Alex Finn. Um, and so I just thought it was appropriate. I originally was going to think about naming all of them after characters on The Office or Ted Lasso. I thought that would be fun too. Like my chief of staff would be Ted Lasso, and then it'd have all these different characters. But I kind of stuck with Alex because it just felt appropriate. Probably because it was just easy because I have a physical disability. So it was just easy for my voice to pick up the word Alex. He's my chief of staff. And then I have just for Crown and Key, I have 8 or 7 sub agents that do work. So one is called Radar, and they're responsible for doing research and market listening.
You were
I have
watching an old
one,
MASH rerun when you named Radar.
yeah, Radar. I have one named Quill, and Quill is responsible for writing, all of my writing for Alex. So everything goes through Alex, but I have all these different sub agents. I have one called Forge. Forge is my coder. I have like one, his name's Ledger. I don't need to go through every single one of them, but those are like some examples of, they're like sub agents that report to Alex, and then Alex oversees everything. So Dave, you and I actually work together, and I have some agents that work for you. I have one
Right.
that does campaign monitoring. Um, I have one that does research and listening. I have one that does coding as well. I have, so I took just recently, I have like a more of a expanded team. I think I have like 30 now, 30 different agents, and each client that I have has their own team. So I took it to more of an agency level architecture where you kind of have like a master project manager, and then that project manager is called an orchestrator. Getting nerdy here, but basically an orchestrator agent oversees a client, and then I have sub agents that report to that orchestrator, like a project manager. And then that project manager's job is to oversee a client, making sure it's done well and everything. And then it talks to Alex and myself to make sure that that client is running properly. So now I went from like 8 to like 30. So each client has their own subset of agents, like a little team that's dedicated specifically to a client. Um, it's amazing, this technology, and I know I'm kind of talking fast, and I know I'm covering it pretty quickly, but that is the world that we live in now. And these agents are completely proactive, and they have job roles, just like if you were to have, a copywriter writing for you or a research agent or whatever. Like they have very specific lanes that they need to stay in and job roles. And if um, they're not allowed to go outside of those job roles.
Well,
It's
I
pretty
think
neat.
I'd like to try and concretize this idea a little bit more because my knowledge is minimal, but it's a little bit greater than maybe some others that might be watching this. And to me, it's a twofold situation. First of all, Crown and Key promises growth, and we'll talk about the RISE method in a minute, for your clients that find signals out there in the marketplace that are specific for that client to then try to prospect. So that's
Right.
one aspect that your agents do. The
Hmm.
other aspect is you actually building an agent within the confines of AI right now. So let's talk a little bit about what a day-to-day scenario might be for me as a client that would see an agent finding a signal, delivering some sort of report that says you ought to prospect in what fashion.
Right. So where I start, and maybe let's start with the RISE method. That might be a little bit better of a,
Sure.
a, a direction into this conversation. So I have a methodology that I developed, and it's been over nearly 30 years of being in the branding and design and marketing background. I mean, all the stuff that, you and I are kind of cut from the same cloth in that way,
Right.
but I've evolved from just being like a designer into more of an architect. So I use creativity for that. But basically, so if I talk with a client, the very first time I am trying to get an idea of who they are, like what are their needs. So the RISE method is my methodology of how I uncover where where the needs are. So it's like the first step is basically just, you know, what are you doing? Like, what's the hurdle? Like, where are you at? Like, you're at 5 million and you want to be at 7 million in a year. Like, what are your goals? What are your business? Like, what do you do and all that? Second part of the methodology is okay, well, what are you doing right now to do that, to achieve your 5 million, right? The third part is simplifying that into a very clear objective of what do we need to do to accomplish that differentiation. So some clients want pure revenue, like, hey, I want to grow my business. I want to make an extra 2 million. Okay. Well, let's figure out what do we need to do to get there. And then I
Okay.
simplify that into steps, right? Um, and then I use agents to help execute that. So and consulting as well. So it's not like I just go in and do one thing. I really get the lay of the land, and my methodology that I start with helps uncover those roadblocks. And then from there, I go, okay, based on what you're telling me, client, you know, this is what I think we need to do to get there. And then we set a plan to do that uh, and implement that. Some clients just need advisory, like, "Hey, teach me your ways," like, "Give me advice." And I meet with them, every couple weeks, and then, we have very specific, goals that we're trying to achieve, and I
That's
help keep
more
them
of a
on.
consultative
That's more of
basis.
consultancy advisory, right?
Right.
Um,
Okay.
in most cases recently, it's been like, I love like, advisory is awesome, and I love it. It's not really scalable though. So because you can only work with so many clients at one time. So where I'm finding the most traction is now, like, I've uncovered where all these areas are, and I go, okay, well, let's put some AI agents in place to do some of these jobs, um, that will help your team be more efficient. So I don't come in and go, you need to fire everyone. In reality, what it does is it frees up your client, your team to be better. So they can focus on the job that they're hired to do. Like,
Right.
they shouldn't be spending 30% of their time doing manual spreadsheets and like doing manual research for things. So, when it comes to like lead generation specifically, a lot of clients just need opportunities to get clients in the door. And so I have a little, series of agents I can set up that will go out and find those opportunities and look for market signals to connect my clients with their ideal customers.
That's
So,
the crux of it right there, if I could
yeah,
jump in. When you say lead generation and you've got agents that you've built, am I respecting the agent by
yeah,
saying it's been
built and
built?
deployed. Yeah, yeah,
And so they find a signal, as we say, that says, here is somebody in your demographic that could possibly need some help in the area that you are an expertise at. And then you wake up in the morning and these agents report some document to you that they then forward to the client. Is that
yeah, yeah,
simplifying it in a way that makes
yeah,
sense?
yeah. That's real. I mean, it's a really great. How does that look from a brass tacks, like on the ground?
Right.
Tactical. And so some clients just get reports like, "Hey, here's what's going on." I build, um, lead generation workflows. That's probably the best way of saying it. Where now I find these signals and then I put them into an outreach, campaign to start conversations. Whatever the market signal is, and I just connect those dots basically where the agent is doing a lot of the heavy lifting to respond to somebody or to reach out to them. And it just happens just all the time, 24/7, 365. And it's very accurate. I can do research on prospects. A lot of the time, I can tell you, Dave, like 99% of the time, um, the clients that I work with don't have a system in place to uh, reach out, capture the leads, bring the leads in, nurture them, drive conversations.
From a sales standpoint, we've got to plant seeds early and we've got to be consistent with it. Do you believe that the hot prospect and or the cold prospecting has changed over the years? Or do we still fall into prey to the expectation that if I reach out to somebody, I expect something to grow overnight? And that's not ever really going to happen. I don't
No,
think. You've got to constantly
yeah,
apply this discipline of prospecting.
yeah. I mean, I could tell you, you cannot beat a referral, right? You can't. The problem with that, when times are tough and when referrals aren't coming in, then you're kind of left holding the bag, right? So I think it's a combination of keep referrals going as much as you can, of course. But you also need to be constantly having conversations that eventually turn into prospects, prospects turning into, clients.
Well, you
And that
talk
takes
about building
time.
trust at that point in
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah. And you and I have talked, right? Like I believe we're in a trust recession, to be honest with you. Uh, and I didn't make it up, or I didn't, it's not mine, but it's very, very true. Like every day, everyone's just probably watching this, their inbox is hammered, buy my stuff, or whatever. That trust has diminished over the years. And so, why should somebody trust you if they don't know you at all? You got to really, really earn that business.
You suggested, and we've had some luck with that you just try to start conversations and ask them opinions on what the industry for them is like so that they can feel more comfortable expressing their expertise. You've got a number of conversations that you've already produced on your website. Go ahead and tell us what that website address is.
You can access it on our site. That's the easiest way is a Rise Up podcast. First off, I love talking to people. I'm just naturally curious. I think that's part of, being a designer at heart. So the idea that I had was, well, I want to start a podcast and just ask people just how do they get into, what they're doing. But I love just talking with these business owners. I've picked up a lot of insight from these business owners and founders that I've met over the last year. And I found by going through that process of just kind of just talking to people and just, getting to know them, I've learned a lot. And it's been really fantastic just to see when you just kind of open open a conversation, it really does start to build the foundation like a relationship, and I love to just get to know people and I get to connect people too, which is awesome. That's one of the things I didn't really go into it really understanding when I first started Rise Up podcast was I'm talking with all these different business owners, but in some ways they could help each other. And so I get to connect people. I get to, help build relationships with two complete strangers that I never thought that I could do. And I've had those things happen. And if it builds trust, then great, you know?
Now, let me ask you in the final question here. You've also talked about the book that you've got, Your Next Million. How does that weave into everything that you're doing?
Your Next Million, it's an ebook that I wrote a while back. It's really more tied to the RISE method, which is getting into the psyche of more of a founder led business. Um, it's a really good tool that helps business owners really focus in on what's really working in their business. and it kind of takes you through it, kind of pillar by pillar. Yeah, yeah.
So, as we wrap up, my final question to you is, other than working with Crown and Key regularly, what's the one thing that somebody, an organization, a company, a leader should do to continually grow their business?
The biggest thing that I would say that somebody could do right away, like that's just gold sitting there, typically, is look at your past client list, past customers, and ask them if they need more of your stuff. Pretty
Very
simple.
good. That's a good punctuation right there. If I could put a period and not a semicolon in it. So, Justin, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me today.
The Foundation is produced by Studio Conover and edited by Brett Euler. Studio Conover is a strategic marketing design firm for manufacturers of building products. Visit studioconover.com for more information.